Now, the parking facts is there are 24 main shopping centres, 8 of which are major centres. 4 of the main centres actually have 7,000 free car parks for their customers. The CBD, and that's just the small part of the CBD, has 3,500 customer car parking spaces available. City centre has about 4,387 to be exact. The council needs to seriously consider the radical reduction of on-street parking without first replacing it with some off-street parking as proposed in the Gull report. They were talking about reducing the car parking in the city centre. Be a mistake. Sorry. We need more efficient public transport. The public transport needs to be attractive so people are persuaded or to actually consider another option rather than using their car. And we know down the future that the car is going to become more expensive to run, so we need to now start thinking about how we're going to strengthen our public transport. But right now, the car is still the main mode of transport. We need to reduce the bus movements in the CBD. We have thousands of bus movements per day in the CBD, and that would be one of the most unattractive things that we have to contend with. We need to create possibly 2 bus terminals, east and west, with smaller shuttles bringing the people into the city centre. Now, they also need car parking at those transport interchanges. So people can park the car if they're an all-day parker, they then can just come into the city via the small shuttle. Now, the possibility of light rail, it's been bandied around and obviously it is gaining a bit of traction. Now, if we're going to do it, is the best time to do it. And the term that's been used, the roads are munted and the services underneath the roads are mega munted. So we've got to dig it all up. We may as well put in the infrastructure while we're doing it. Now's the best time to do it. It needs to connect to the New Zealand rail so we can actually reduce the traffic movements along the southern and the northern highways. You've got some satellite towns out there that people bring their cars into town. If New Zealand rail was utilised properly, we build a better railway station. Currently one is in Addington somewhere, I don't know exactly where it is, but we need a proper railway station and the light rail should connect to that. Building block 4 is to create and define the city precincts, and there's obviously a mixture of cultural, commercial, hospitality, residential, education, culture and sport. Successful cities identify what they are. They place them strategically so they function well. They actually need to understand how they operate and what actually drives them, and they need to interconnect. Retail, we need to reduce the retail footprint in the city centre. It creates critical mass where you get that vibrancy that you get in a suburban shopping centre. They cram all the people in, it feels vibrant, but we need to do that in the city centre. Naturally, secondary retail will pop up, as it always does, and that's what creates some of those opportunities for those unique retailers that don't want to be in that sort of high commercial area. Again, restrict the suburban developments, which will only weaken the existing retail. And it's already actually under pressure at the moment. We need to increase the inner city living. I mean, it's a long-term aspiration of the council to have 30,000 people living in the inner city by the year 2026. At the current rate of growth, that was the current rate of growth, we would have got 12,000 by the year 2026. So now we've got a real opportunity to bring more people back into town. And we need to find places we can put residential so it fits in well with the other precincts. Education and culture. CPIT and the university faculty should form an educational precinct along with student inner city living. Relook at the school zoning. I mean, currently there are people out there that move to particular parts of town so they can get their children into particular schools. If we adjusted some of the zoning into the central city, it may encourage some of those people that could move into there. Another arts precinct or another park, perhaps on the eastern side. We've got an opportunity here to form another art and cultural precinct, perhaps up around the CPIT, around the Basilica, especially with the Arts Centre currently going under a major fix up, and that's going to take a number of years. We're talking sort of 10 years, so we need to think about that. Build a major cultural complex, something that houses all the arts, something that's actually quite spectacular. We could do something very, very unique, and you see them overseas, some fantastic looking buildings that house all those things all together, along with the Conservatorium of Music, which was contentious in its original placement. Sporting facilities. Now, a large number of the sporting facilities in Christchurch have been severely damaged, along with Kuitu Park. Now, do we rebuild it there, or do we bring all those into the city centre? I mean, myself personally, I haven't been to Kuitu Park since 1978 when the Bowie concert was on. It's just because it's too far away. If we brought it all into the city centre, created some a precinct for the sports, along with the AMI Stadium, I think it would have some very good benefits and add some vibrancy to the city centre. Now, the benefits of an iconic city, they will inspire and aid reinvestment into our community, increase tourism, national and international. Now, we have to understand the tourist industry is massive for our region, not just the city centre, but the city centre is what hubs it. It's $2.4 billion. That feeds a lot of people in our community. And we've also got to look at the wider issues. If we don't get our city centre back up and running and do something that's inspiring, is that we could lose international flights. We will drop our tourism numbers, and that will affect the whole South Island. So it's very, very important. If we create an iconic city centre that people want to come into, it will increase our house values. But again, on the other side of the coin, if we don't, it could go the other way. So again, we all have incentives to actually make sure we build something spectacular. Has the opportunity to increase our population and attract talented young people to come and live here. Investors' confidence is critical. If the property owners who will rebuild our city centre, we need to provide a platform for them that they can feed what they want to do through some sort of filter of what we'd like to see happen, and we will get a better and desired outcome. And that's very, very important for the lending banks and to ensure some commercial success. But actually your input is as important, because the issues we suffered in the city centre in the previous years, we don't want to repeat those. So your input, what would make you want to come back into the city centre? What would make you want to come back into the city centre every day or once a week? We need to know your ideas, and this is a great forum to do it, so now's the time to do it. Thank you. Now, is there any questions? Thank you.
If you want. There'll be questions. Right, to be questions? Yep. All right, now for the question segment, Pulla was about to do a runner. Jenny is on the mic, so just raise your hand if you've got a question and we'll bring the microphone to you so we can all hear you. All right, actually start to your left. Go up about 4 stairs, Jenny. We'll start there.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. You didn't talk about technology, though. Do you not see the value of taking the opportunity to put smart fibre in the CBD area, and wouldn't that enhance the attractiveness?
Look, I think green technology, high-speed broadband, all those sort of technologies should be put into the infrastructure. Absolutely, there's no question about it. That's what will make the city iconic. What will actually give people confidence and inspire people to come into the city centre. I mean, most of the, in the presentation, did talk about a bit about incentivising green technology. There's a lot of incentives that we're going to need to do to make people want to do these things, because sometimes they will just look at the easier option or maybe the cheaper option. But right now, when they're rebuilding, you need to look at all those technologies to make it work better for the modern business. The city centre had some issues around dysfunctional buildings that have been there for a long time. They've become very dysfunctional because they didn't suit the modern business who wants nice clean floor plates, nice open spaces, green technology so they can reduce their own costs. So absolutely, very important.
Ma'am, yes.
My question relates quite a bit to what you were just saying. I was very inspired yesterday hearing them talk about incorporating, green technology into buildings. And so you start to get really inspired. And then I heard a developer speak about how he's already faced with 30% increase in cost in terms of what he's going to build, and wondering about how he can afford to incorporate any of these green technologies in his building. And so then I just sort of plummeted down again in my enthusiasm, because I thought, no matter how much we talk about this, ultimately it comes down to the individual property ownership and what's going to be done on that particular building site. So how is this overall vision going to be married with this individual investment in these individual properties? This is what I can't understand.
Yeah, look, that is a concern, and I think with the right incentives put in place, and there's a range of things they can do. We were working with the council previous to the earthquakes to look at incentivising certain things to happen in the city centre. Some of it's development reserve contributions. This is something the building owners have to, or the property owners have to pay, and that's to put infrastructure into the ground. Some of that should be removed in the central city because we have all the facilities in the ground already. We're not green field development where you have to stretch the resources. There's things they can do with the rates. There's maybe some kickback on the rates. So they do need to incentivise it, but we need to look at how that's managed, and they have to be right for the investor to actually want to do that extra. And I mean, the businesses coming into this city centre as well will want that stuff. So I think for a building owner or a property owner who's going to develop their land would be very unwise not to seriously consider it, because it will weaken their prospects. And we're seeing it now, major businesses moving out of the city because the building they're in, and these are actually quite relatively new buildings, are still dysfunctional. They don't have all those technologies. And green technology obviously reduces overall costs long term, so the payback and the rental structure will be increased with that technology. So I think there's a bit of work to be done there, but it is a concern, but I think it's something that can be addressed.